from the Penn Libraries.
So the next speaker, Virginia Seymour, is actually a student of Gwendolyn's. She's a junior in the college studying art history and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. She serves on the undergraduate advisory board for both the departments. She's also a MAP advisor, as well as the director of the feminisms programming at the Kelly Writers House and coordinator of the Robinson Press imprint of the Common Press. So, Virginia.
Sure. Let me see if I can get presentation notes up. Do you know how to?
Just to go.
No, I'm trying. No, I know. Just to get the notes up. I don't have to use them.
To get the presenter notes?
If not, it's fine.
It's you're gonna get your presenter notes on screen if that's what.
Oh, on this screen?
It's mirrored.
It's only mirroring?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Okay. Let's not worry about it. Okay, I'm using on my iPad. Okay, so like just about every 20-year-old, I'm going to talk about Instagram. So in one of Professor Shaw's classes, I was introduced to a way of communicating with other students via social media on a trip sponsored by the Spiegel family. But this isn't it. This is I would say now, sad attempt at digital curation that I did my freshman year. And at the time, I was really impressed with myself. I was like, this is great, white wall, like I'm doing something new with putting it in a grid so that these different things sort of interact with each other in ways that they wouldn't in a gallery. But there's a theme, they're on a white background. There's really nothing different in this from a regular traditional gallery curation. And that's not the point of using digital technology, right? It's to use digital technology is to want to add something to the experience that you would normally have in the physical world. And so it's a lot like documents on a computer. They're shaped like the document in the real world, but that doesn't really give you anything new with the actual document. It doesn't help you use it in any way. It's just something that we pull over from the real world in hopes that it'll improve our experience with it. So before I go to the project I did with Professor Shaw, I'm going to talk about a hashtag I used this summer, Thun in Israel. And this is for a Thun project going to Israel to study art there. And this is sort of where social media curating comes in. It produces new questions and relationships, groupings of work, without just moving the gallery space to the digital space. It produces an experience of images unique to the digital platform, but it doesn't replace the gallery because it's fundamentally different in the experience. It does, however, produce a new space for experiencing works differently to push us to think in different ways about the works we're viewing. And so here are some screen captures from the project I did this summer. And there's sort of just selections I took as I went along. So they're from different times. And it's a way to curate work, but also curate experience of work in real time. And so the space becomes a negotiation between a particular physical space and a wholly different digital one. And it allows you to instantly document, accumulate personal images, and with the hashtag specifically, pull out a group of images that have a significance or relationship to revisit later. And so these are just two of very similar screens, but they end up producing very different relationships. If I were to come back and say, okay, I want to do a gallery show about my experience in Israel and what I saw, if I were to generate my own themes, it would be, okay, war or religious versus secular interactions, topography, something like that. But seeing work in this way produces very unique interactions between works. One that jumps out to me in this, and it was just a random screen grab, was the two bicycle images. One is an advertisement outside a yarn store in downtown Tel Aviv, and the other is a new acquisition of Ai Weiwei's work at the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. And okay, yeah, they're both bicycles. But, I mean, it pulls out some really great themes. The pairing of images brings up questions of object use, high art versus craft, and treatment of form and material, embedded advertisement in objects. And that's not something I went to Israel expecting to see art about or to make connections about, but using this technology really allows for that. So, admittedly, like I said before, I did this in Israel only after having already done it in Professor Schall's class in Venice during the Biennale last year. And here are some images that we used, and it's the same format, it looks the same, but this project is very different in that the first project was individual, I was curating the images, I was the only one producing them, and in this, 7 of us used the hashtag, so we ended up in very different places in Venice, sometimes on opposite sides of the island, simultaneously contributing to this collection, and it allowed for us to see images that we might have not gotten to. I mean, the amount of work was so great that there are lots of things here that I never encountered, but can now that they're in this group. So just an example of how one work can work beyond this individual hashtag. You can encounter an image on Instagram individually without anything around it by clicking on it. And you can have this one-on-one encounter with a work simultaneously with 12, 100, 1,000 other people at the same time and still have this individual experience where you can spend as little or as long with the work as you want. None of that isn't to say that's a replacement for gallery interactions or anything like that, but it's a different way of interacting with images that can coexist with the experience in a museum space. The other thing you can do is view them in different hashtag groups and form different connections than the one you initially intended. So we started with Spiegel in Venice, but as you can see, there are several other hashtags associated with this image. And this creates combinations and groupings that you couldn't have produced yourself and make for very interesting connections. So one is a space tag, which is just a place that it's associated with. So this work was shown in Venice, but was made by an Irish artist for the Ireland Pavilion. And so we see two very different geographies that are being produced by these different associations. And it produces a space that does not and really cannot exist in the real world, but has endless possibilities and is endlessly developing in the digital space. It also allows for a solo exhibition of sorts. By tagging an artist or a work of art, you come up with images that are just tagged with that you may have never seen, but directly relate to the work that you put on Instagram. This one I find particularly interesting because they're all stills of work that in real life would be encountered as a large video installation of multiple screens. And here you see them as stills from a variety of angles. And if everyone who saw this work posted their own view of the exact same installation, you would see endless combinations and orientations and possibilities with a huge variety among them. And also in spaces specifically like the Venice Biennale that we went to, you're surrounded by so much art that it's hard to see even close to all of it. And so by using a tag for a specific show, you can find, it produces another context that you can find other works that you didn't see. And it also allows an exploration of works you just can't get to. It also shows some very interesting things. Maybe the pointer will work. I don't know how to work it. It's okay. But you sort of see what everyone is interested in. You see people really like very repetitive installation works. But it sort of gives you a space to communicate with other people that you will never meet in real life, but had similar experiences of the work or even very different experiences. So